morning. As you can probably tell, it has been raining, and it's also a little bit on the windy side today. The weathermen claim that the rain and clouds are going to move out of the area pretty quickly this morning, with high temperatures in the low 60s, which is crazy for late February. Of course, there is a catch. Weather like this is always too good to be true for this time of year. It's going to be really windy all day. I'd love to just not work anytime there's an inkling of inclement weather, but if I did that, I would literally never get anything accomplished. The wind's not really that bad. Could be worse. Besides, we do have some higher priority items to get checked off our list before we get busy with spring season. Namely, these two harvest stores holding 6,500 to 7,000 bushels of corn apiece really need to get emptied sooner rather than later. And as many of you know, if you want to get something finished, you got to start it first. So that's what we're going to do today. These small harvest stores aren't exactly the most convenient storage we have. They are storage though nonetheless. 6,500 bushels of corn isn't anything to scoff at. So it is worth our time in the fall when there's lines at the elevator or the elevators are full to fill these babies up so we can keep the machines running. For the unacquainted viewers out there, the issue with these in terms of long-term storage is they have a flat concrete floor, meaning that even with fans on the draws right here, we're not getting good aeration through the bottom. Good aeration is key to successful long-term storage of your grain. If we had plenty of airflow through here, I would not be concerned about holding corn in here till June, July, maybe even August, like we would in some of our grain bins. However, much more of a gamble. Corn starts to go off grade, you're going to have a mess, so we'd rather get it out as opposed to deal with the nightmare of handling damaged or low quality grain. Obviously, we've got the conveyor in place, which is important. I do need to get this fan and plate off because that is blocking the louvers, which I'll have to pull to do some gravity emptying out the side. Any guesses on what size those nuts are? I'm guessing 1/2 inch, which would be about 12 to 13 millimeters. I've learned that even if you're fairly confident in what size it is, you're always better off bringing a few extra sockets. That way you don't have to run back and get more. This looks like a safe place to set my tools. Start with 13. Too small. 14. Just right. Good thing I brought that. I found that it's much easier to get these out before you try and remove this, as opposed to picking them up all off the ground. Got every one but the top one. Looks like it. The nice thing about these is that they're not heavy or awkward to lift at all. And there you have it, folks. That's all that is holding the grain in this harvest store right now are these sheets, which we call louvers. They all sit kind of on a brace across bead there. They slide in at an angle to keep the grain from coming out. Once we get the truck under, get everything else ready to go, we'll cut some of this netting we put in, some screen wire, pop open one of those top louvers, and the grain will just rain out of here. Oh, well, hold on a second. That's the plan. Doesn't always go that smoothly, but that is like an ideal scenario. I don't even know where our power cord is for our conveyor. Better go find that. While I've got this Milwaukee 1/2 inch impact in my hand, I just want to go ahead and address the elephant in the room, or at least the elephant in my brain. This gun, although I am a huge fan of the Milwaukee products, their batteries are great, their whole system is very enjoyable to use, this is not as powerful as the DeWalt 1/2 inch of the same size, which is rated, according to DeWalt, lower than this gun. This struggles to get some stuff off, even with a freshly charged battery, that DeWalt 1/2 impact will screw off without any issue, which is surprising to me because I really thought Milwaukee had the upper hand across the table. But in regards to their big 1/2 inch impacts, DeWalt may just be more powerful. Keep that in mind if you're shopping. I wanted to take a quick moment out of the action to give a huge shout out to the sponsor of today's video, AG1. AG1 is a comprehensive daily nutrition made powerfully simple. It's made up of 75 high quality, whole food sourced ingredients, including vitamins, minerals, superfoods, probiotics, and adaptogens, carefully curated to nourish all the body's systems holistically. When it comes to taking back control of your own personal health and wellness, consistency is key. A high quality product like AG1 can be a crucial part of your success because one scoop of this product is an effortless and convenient daily habit to help achieve those goals. AG1 is a simple first step to starting your day off right, first thing in the morning. One scoop of this product and you'll be ready to go and conquer the day. It also doesn't hurt that it tastes really good. Personally, I consume AG1 to help support clarity and focus throughout the day, along with sustained energy to make sure that I'm on top of every single task that I'm in charge of. With planting season right around the corner, those two items are key to my success each and every day, and having a supplemental support like AG1 is massive in that effort. I've personally been using the AG line of products for a long while now. I cannot recommend it all to you enough. Highly recommend that you go check it out. If you're interested in trying it out, head over to athleticgreens.com/aTrippyFarmer to get started on your order. Anyone from my community who makes a purchase through that link will get a free 1-year supply of vitamin D3 and K2, along with 5 free travel packs. So go ahead and go get started on your order now. Thanks again to AG1 for sponsoring today's video. Let's get back to the action. My Uncle Chris was in charge of putting the 220 cord away last time we used it, and he's usually pretty predictable with his storage locations. Yep, speaking of the devil, that's the cord we need, but it may not be long enough, so we may have to get another one. We'll see. Now the trick here is to not tangle this when you pull it out. Wow, this is a really long cord. For whatever it's worth, we do try to plug in the downstream end while we can before we hook up the hot end. That way we don't get electrocuted or something terrible like that. Yeah, there'll be no risk of electrocution today. Come on. I told you guys not to do this. No knots. Plugging this into that outlet while standing in a pool of water does not seem like the best choice I can make this morning. All we need is a good insulator. Oh, here's one right there. You've been recruited. Probably zero chance that that is on. There we go. Yeah, needless to say, kind of a little bit of an electrician. No, I'm just kidding. I've got a fear that that 3-phase power system on that bin's gonna send me to Kingdom Come one of these days. I think I'm just going to sit here for a minute and enjoy what it's like not being outside in this violent breeze. Pretty nice. I don't believe I need to check the oil in this 9200 this morning, seeing as it had plenty when I moved that tanker around at the tail end of last week. As long as there's not a big old puddle under it, maybe a little bit of coolant, nothing other than that, we should be good to go. To be honest with y'all, at this point, I would be concerned if this truck did not have a coolant leak. I may be overdressed for today. The high is in the low 60s, I think 61 or 62. If it wasn't so windy, it would be magnificent outside. Once we get these harvesters empty, we will very quickly have to start thinking about getting the seed tenders out, considering changing the oil in them. I may even wash them off if I get some opportunities. That's not even to mention that the corn planter still needs hooked up, which is a big ticket item when you consider it's probably the most important item on our farm. Cat update. There is Mama Cat. She's napping the morning away. Did I interrupt something? You look tired. And there's 2 of the baby cats that have quickly outgrown Mama Cat. There's normally a 3rd one somewhere, but I'm not seeing her. Okay, I'll leave. Ah, there's the 3rd mouse hunter. Why do cats always find the coolest places to nap? I come in peace. Mama Cat appreciates a good pet. All right, I'll leave you guys alone. I'm going back to work. I don't know. I'm rethinking my decision. It may actually be too windy to haul corn today. We're not in that much of a hurry, and it may give my tarp some issues. I'm not sure. Sorry about the yard. It's a little muddier than I'd like. At least it won't be difficult to figure out which direction the wind's out of today. It's fairly obvious it's out of the south. After forgot to mention that we just got this conveyor back from Arthur's Repair Shop in Hinesboro. They do a great job selling and servicing all sorts of different accessories to the farm, especially these backhoe conveyors. Looks like, along with putting new laces on the belt, they gave us a new skirt here because the mice had chewed a hole in our old one. So, it's kind of new. I wouldn't say brand new because we're going to need a new belt here in another year or two. We got some baby steps in. The corn is moving. This conveyor can handle a much faster unload speed than this, but I can't really flirt that line with that top louver to speed it up without making it go wide open. A lot of times, it's not getting the thing started that's the issue. It's getting it closed when you're done or if something breaks down. But I'm not usually one to make a mess. Not something I would ever do. We're gonna have to do something because I'm not this patient. This thing ought to be loading full bore if I'm in charge. In completely convenient fashion, the minute I open that thing up, the wind actually shifted a little bit. It's coming out of the east, so all that corn dust is blowing right in my eyes while I'm trying to work. Needless to say, it's not that fun. Oh, ladies and gentlemen, an eventful morning just got more eventful. Not only have they added a tornado watch to our local vicinity, and the wind has picked up and started swirling a little bit more, Chris was helping me close the harvester off, hammering that top louver in, and he hit the top louver and just completely shot it off the groove. So I had to sprint off the top of the truck here, watching it load, run down there, help him get that shut off. The louver went up the conveyor, down into the truck. So we had our hands full, got it cleaned up. I don't think too much of a mess, though it does look like there may be a strong storm moving in and possibly some tornadoes. There's the current radar. There's a lot going on this My Radar app. You see up in Champaign County, Urbana area, there's a tornado warning out in that cell. We're on the tail end of that line. Things are starting to pop up. Hopefully they don't amount to anything. I wouldn't rule it out though, so we're gonna keep our eyes peeled. We may end up just shutting down for the day because this wind is getting brutal outside. Get that good old corn protected from the elements. I'm not surprised to see that I'm the only one hauling today, and even that may not last very long if this wind keeps up. While I get dumped here at the pit, I probably ought to take a moment to go ahead and check and make sure that I have fuel in the fuel tank so I don't run it out again. Looks like we've got about a half tank of fuel in the truck. It was too windy for them to run the probe at the scale, so I'm taking this little manual cup of corn back for a sample. That load tested 15.1% moisture, 58.4 pounds of test weight per bushel. Not bad for being stored in an old measly harvester. Well, here comes another round of rain. Better get the tarp closed up. Probably gonna go ahead and just try to load another. Looks like it's gonna be raining soon. Every time I count on that, it doesn't end up raining, so I might as well at least guarantee it.
Take a sample of food. Now what happened? Lost the fuse?
There seems to be another development in our day. It appears that we do not have power now. Classic. It's hard to tell if it's just the sketchy wiring on our grain bins or the power to the side as a whole. This will tell the tale. Nope, that's got juice. Seeing as that pump works, we do have power here at the farm. These bins were not all built at the same time, so there's actually some intermediate power stages here. One breaker runs to another bin, which runs to a subset of power. So I'm wondering maybe if we flipped a breaker on one of the other bins. I don't know. Marty was able to get the conveyor going again. Just came unplugged slightly at the connection or the receptacle on the bin. I imagine the wind had something to do with that. About to head back north with another load of clean corn. Okay, that's like a 99% truth. There was one small spot of rotten corn, I would imagine, from one of the doors on top of the harvester that pulled down. It's really nothing to be concerned of, and when blended in with the entirety of the load, it's pretty much a non-event, but I did see it with my own eyes, so it did frighten me for a second. Also, it never rained a single drop while we were here, which is exactly what I predicted. If I would have parked the truck and it didn't rain, I would have been really upset with myself. There are some commercial transport trucks hauling beans out of this facility, probably to ADM in Decatur. There aren't any other farmers though, so I guess I get some kind of award for that. That load tested a little bit more reasonable, 14% moisture, 59.6 pound test weight per bushel. I would say that that first load just had the first load blues coming out of the bin. Usually the readouts are a little different from being on top or on the sides. Once you get that core of the bin flowing out, you get much more consistent, drier readings. Unless, of course, your bin's just in terrible condition, which does happen sometimes. A nice solid rain just in time for a quick lunch break. We'll take it. It's been close to an hour since I parked the truck. The rain has stopped. It looks like the sun may peek through, but I can't exactly say the same about the wind. It's still miserably gusty out here. The wind was out of the south, on the second load it was out of the east, and now on our third load the wind is out of the west. Needless to say, Mother Nature needs to make up her mind. We're filling the trucks fast at this speed. This is about all this conveyor can take. I've just made the executive decision to quit for the day after I dumped this load. It's just not worth the trouble with this wind and rain to haul any more corn out of those silly harvesters. I lied to you all yesterday. Even after expressing my frustrations and desire to quit for the day, I ended up hauling one more load of corn, then I pulled the plug. Back at it today trying to empty this east harvester, and I was greeted with much friendlier weather. About 50 degrees, or that's the high today, and not violently windy like it was yesterday. I don't know about all of you, but I would rather work in 20 degrees weather with no wind as opposed to 75 with that 50-mile-an-hour wind we had. It's just not enjoyable regardless of temperature. This should be the last load or the last partial load that we get out with the gravity off the door. We'll pull a couple more, I think, once it runs down. Then we'll have to put an auger in the bottom and do the rest. these old harvesters on our farm are a relic of a generation long past. They haven't gotten much use with the exception of these two getting some dry corn in them ever since my family sold off the livestock herd after my great-grandfather passed away. I believe that was kind of his deal. It would be really neat to get all my dad's brothers together and kind of ask them questions about what the farm used to be like eons ago. Haven't quite got that orchestrated yet, but hopefully someday I do that. Normally, with both trucks on the road, we could get one of these harvesters emptied per day. Like I said, they don't hold a tremendous amount of corn. However, our other driver, my Uncle Jeff, is on his winter vacation right now, so it's just myself hauling, Chris helping, and my dad kind of floating around. Other than when we are in a logistical bind during harvest, my dad doesn't exactly like to haul grain, so that's Jeff and I's job. I did buy this Milwaukee Power Broom attachment for my quick lock system that'll hopefully make it easier to sweep this bin out. I saw this on TikTok. It looked like a pretty good idea. I've used it on one bin so far. It was all right. I will say that this is a lot heavier than I thought it was going to be. Didn't expect it to be light, but I didn't really expect it to be this heavy either. Could be that it's not necessarily super weighted. It's just not balanced very well because it's long. Color me surprised, the harvester did not quit running out the door that load. I still appear to be the only farmer hauling grain today. Even with this decent weather, I figured more people would be out. They're probably all headed to Florida for their last minute March vacations before planting season. I can't blame them. A little R&R never hurt anybody, especially before the planting season grind. I'm not exactly sure what Marty's up to. Got that tractor parked out front like it's for sale. Stopping at the old watering hole. Truck says I had 7/8 of a tank of fuel, but I find that hard to believe. Yeah, 7/8, more like a quarter. Nice and full. Your guess is as good as mine. I'm fairly confident that the corn will stop running out the door on this load. Though that is what I said on the last load. Chris, what was originally stored in these harvesters?
Silage and hay.
Hay?
Yeah.
Like yearlage or wheatlage?
To feed the cattle.
But you just put regular hay in here?
Blew it. Thought the blown up in the feed went all the way up and blew in there.
Yeah.
I don't know. It maybe mostly high moisture corn because it'd be easy to get out if we need extra feed. Basically, it was feed. We've done this a lot, I think, with dry corn.
Dry corn in them?
We tried one year putting beans in them, and they moved too much. It broke the bottom out somehow.
Once this completely quits flowing out the side hole, we are going to push in this auger into the about 8 to 9 inch gap underneath the floorboard we put in. Push it to the center because there is technically a center subsidy. We'll pull out as much as we can, and then I'm hopeful that we'll put the sweep auger in, although my dad's talking like he just wants to move on to the next one and wait until my Uncle Jeff gets back from vacation. I prefer just to do these things while we're there. We'll see what happens. While we wait on that to develop, I'll give you a quick market update. Old crop corn is right around $6.30 a bushel, meaning that this corn's worth probably 20 cents less than when we put it in here. If we just sold it over the scales, probably could have got $6.50 to $6.60 this harvest. We are not selling this over the scales right now, putting it into those delayed pricing contracts. I've explained it numerous times, but we get rid of all of the storage, grain quality issues. We limit our flexibility in terms of final destination. We also remain open to basis and market price risk. I'm not sure exactly what the boss man has in store for this grain. A lot of times he likes to hold into summer and see what develops into the market. So we'll see what happens there. Looks like the harvester is quitting on the top louver right now, so I'm gonna have to take a minute away from my market analysis. Hold that thought. should run for a few more minutes that way. Back to what I was talking about. Grain prices have kind of traded in the same relative range for the last couple of months. There's not really been any particular bullish news out there other than a possible shortage of moisture in South America, in Argentina more specifically, along with the late season frost. On the backside of that, some areas in South America, like Brazil, are sitting on an absolutely monstrous crop that they should be finishing up harvest or progressing with harvest as we speak. So I think those offset. Of course, with supportive grain prices, North American farmers are going to be putting as much corn in the beans in the ground as possible. They love to plant corn. You all know that. I love to plant corn. So that should be a good indication of what we're going to be doing. On top of that, I mentioned a few videos ago and got some flack for my commentary on the war in Ukraine, between Ukraine and Russia, saying that it was boiling down. I don't know the full story there, but my personal opinion is that the grain markets have digested just about every possible outcome of that situation. Unless something major happens, extremely major, we are not going to see a run-up in grain prices from another offensive like we did last spring, late winter. The markets are quick to react to things. Once they get accustomed to them, they're not quite as volatile. That's just my 10 cents on the markets. I'm not even close to an expert. And don't trust anyone who tells you they are, because anyone who knew what the markets were going to do, they wouldn't be telling you. Train guys. He's picking up speed. You see that train's passing by the elevator on the main rail. Looks like there is a siding. Then I would assume Premium Grain, formerly Tate & Lyle, owns this separate set of rail to load their cars, which they're doing right now. It's officially time for the fun part of this equation, sliding the out auger under the board to the center sump so we can get it emptied. We have to really snug it in, and of course we got to attach an electric motor on it to spin said out auger. Yes, I know, before you drop this in the comments, a grain vac would be easier. We don't have a grain vac, nor do we have any plans to get one, although it would be simpler than what we're about to do. We have to let it run out of the side hole, one, so it doesn't make a mess as we try to get the auger in, but two, it has to be able to lift up a little bit on the bottom as we slide it in, because it's not quite a large enough opening there with the plywood we have across. What we've unloaded out the side should give us the alleviation of weight required to get the out auger in. Turn it off before it happens. We're almost there. Dad just ran off to get a longer belt connect the motor to the auger drive. This little device here that we use to hoist this in has been called the coffin hoist by my dad and his brothers, so I assume that's the legitimate term for it. Either it puts you in a coffin when it slips off and hits you in the face. Either one. After we get this done, we'll have to move the auger out a little bit, but that's pretty easy compared to what we're doing now.
Enough?
No, I've got to go way more. That's right. To say, every day on the farm is its own unique little experience. This should finish the rest of this truck. On the next load, we'll have to crawl in there and put a small sweep auger in the center to clean out the rest of the floor. Unfortunately, there is something I'm keeping an eye on, which I'm about to show you. The back main roller bearing on this backhoe conveyor looks like it's on its way out the door. I don't know how much more life we're going to get out of it. It will need change soon. Too loud for me to talk over it while I put the camera down here, but I'll show you real quick what it looks like. I wasn't even close to correct. I thought that this would finish off the truck. Not even remotely on the money there. It's already quitting and I don't even have 100 bushels on the backside. That Milwaukee power broom does work great. I'd rate it like a 6 out of 10. It's not a godsend by any means. It definitely is a specialized tool. Probably not gonna do everything you think it's gonna do after watching a video of it. It's a little bit harder to run than it looks. It takes a lot of leverage and maneuvering to move it around. Did I mention that it's heavy? Makes a lot of dust. Like I said, 6 out of 10 at best. It's not going to be the heaven sent blessing you think it is, but it can move a lot of grain if you're moving it with gravity on your side. Once you get to the flat floor, it's just not that efficient. I just ran it for about 10 minutes straight there nonstop. I would say that I moved maybe 250, 300 bushels. That could be on the high side. And I used about all of a 12 amp hour battery, which is the biggest battery they make. So it's your decision. If you think it's something you might benefit, it's not terribly expensive. Try it out. It does make one heck of a dust, that's for sure. I'm glad I got this mask on. So we're upgrading to a more efficient device, the old sweep auger. I do have probably half of the corn off the bottom of this. I can't really tell. Dad's adjusting the chain because as we get the corn off of that plywood board, there's less weight holding the auger in place underneath the floor, and it starts to shift a little bit. At least we didn't make a mess. For the sake of getting part one of this project completed today, Dad ran over. He's gonna get Jeff's semi out of the barn. Meanwhile, I'm gonna move my truck out of the way. Like I said, only a couple hundred bushels left in there. Just didn't quite fit on this truck, unfortunately. Scratch that, I'm getting the other truck. Dad just ran over and started it for me. Jeff, what in the world is this parking job? That's too close for comfort. Can't be too close if you just don't pay any attention to it. There's no need to get jealous, old girl. Even though this truck rides like a Cadillac compared to you. It's just a one-time deal. Dad and I are gonna make one quick trip into this harvest store, empty the rest out, and we're gonna be done here. Just finished up in there. That's what the inside of one of these harvest stores look like. Concrete floor, which is what I was talking about, causing poor aeration. There's really no good way to run air through and get good airflow. We got the bulk of the work done. Now we get to do the real fun stuff, clean up. It looks like Chris barely made any mess working on this at all the last couple days. How's it looking?
Fine.
It's just not tight?
It's not on.
Huh.
There we go.
Good as new.
I wouldn't know go as far as that.
Don't worry, we're not going very far. It's just easier to go around and have it headed out the other way than do some kind of zigzag here in the middle. Moving just to the west harvest store, right next to the one we just emptied.
Easy.
Yeah, that's gonna be plenty on the...
Oh! Now come this way! Whoa!
It's too late in the day to take these to the elevator, so we're just gonna go ahead and tarp them so they don't get any moisture in them. Not that it's supposed to rain. And we'll see what tomorrow morning brings. That's pretty much it for me today. My dad is running that 9460R that had the hydraulic leak on the back end into town. He's having a midwinter service special done on it, and we're just gonna go ahead and let them fix that line that crawls up under the cab. Not really something we want to screw with. I'll check in with you guys tomorrow. Hello, it's me again. Another day, another dollar, as they say. Oh, would you look at that? Someone else finally joined me at the elevator. I was beginning to think all the other farmers had forgotten where this place was located. But we finally got another gentleman dumping some corn, so I'm not alone. According to our gauge, our fuel tank is either extremely full or very empty. It doesn't look like there's an in-between. It's one or the other. The only downside to this harvest store is that I pretty much have to back into it if I want to have any chance of not getting stuck. Have any of you woken up in the morning and ache in places you didn't even know it was possible to be sore in? Because that's how I'm feeling today. I didn't exactly know that that was possible for a 26-year-old, but here we are. Maneuvering that out auger into the harvest store, carrying around that dinky sweep, and running that power broom wasn't exactly child's play. I can only imagine how my old man feels today. He probably deals with this on a regular basis. Time to open up harvest store number 2.
Pick up. You want me to take
I'm just gonna set it out of the way for now.
Okay, that's fine.
See, it's just like riding a bike. That easy. Pop and open, now you just gotta make sure you can get it closed. It's gonna be an absolutely gorgeous day outside. I'm getting some spring fever right now. Highs in the mid-60s, sunny, and no wind. Well, that's not completely true. There is a wind, it's not very much of a wind. It would be nice if it was out of the north as opposed to the south, because when I get up on that ladder to watch this load, I'm gonna get pelted with corn dust. Not every day can be perfect, I guess. most part, farming isn't always miserably labor intensive unless you have livestock. There are days here and there though where you got to do a lot of manual labor, put a lot of elbow grease into what you're doing, especially when you're working on projects around the farm, moving augers, putting sweeps in, sweeping out bins. That's really the heart of the physicality for us. I do think that physical exercise is lost on a lot of the general farming public. I try to do my best to get into the gym when I have time, which is usually early in the morning. Those of you who have been around since the conception of this channel know that I used to be a much leaner creature than I am now. COVID, having a child, a few other things, and of course just some bad habits have led me to gain a little bit of weight. I saw a gentleman on TikTok that many of you have probably also seen, Cody Gayer, however you say his last name. He started off on a goal of 40 pounds lost by the time he turns 40. I'm gonna try and do something similar to do 27 pounds by the time I turn 27, which would get me in pretty good shape. So if anyone wants to join along, try and lose some weight, hop on it. You don't have to exercise if you don't want to. You can lose weight just by watching what you eat. I don't have any intentions of rocking a six-pack or anything crazy like that. It would be nice though to shed a few pounds, get lighter during the summer. I know many of you could probably care less about my life story, so do with that information what you will. Folks, I just finished my 5th load of the day out of the harvester, which really isn't that impressive when you consider how fast we're loading trucks. I'm putting 950-ish dry bushels on this truck in 11 to 12 minutes out of this. Pretty much as fast as this conveyor can eat the grain from the gravity flow out the door. Much to my surprise, this did not quit at all on our 5th load. It did slow down a tiny bit at the end. So tomorrow on our 6th load, we'll probably have to pull a few more of those louvers out. I may need to recalibrate my mathematics because I thought that one was gonna quit earlier than it did too. So maybe my numbers just aren't quite right. This is another harvester full of dry corn running right at 15% moisture. Test weight 58, 59 to 60 pounds per bushel depending on the load. The corn in this harvester is in spectacular condition. Not a single spot in here has been rotten at all, or at least nothing that I pulled out of these first 4,500 plus bushels has looked off grade at all, compared to that tiny little patch in this east one that wasn't quite in as good of condition. I want to expand on a point I hit on a little bit earlier talking about our harvesters. The reason that we can fill these two ones here is because they're shorter than these three farther to the west. These are almost 40 foot tall in height, if I had to guess. I'm not exactly sure. The main issue with this height is that our augers we use to fill all of our other bins will not reach that tall. We originally filled these with an airflow system. When they were putting anything in them, they'd blow it up the side. You can not really see the remainder of any of the piping, but there was a pipe that went over the top. They're very common to see on these old blue harvesters that are still standing. That's how they filled them. I was thinking though, if we do have to get a longer auger to fill the new 48-foot grain bin we are acquiring, it would maybe make a little bit of sense to get one even longer to hit these 40-foot augers. Our auger salesman did say that we'd need about a 93 or 94 foot auger to hit the top of those, which is pretty lengthy considering what we have now are 73 or 74 foot augers, adding almost 20 foot in length. But that's what you need to get to these really tall ones. I would speculate that they hold 10,000 plus bushels of corn, appear to be the same diameter, just a couple rings taller. There is one issue with these old harvesters to the west. For the entirety of my lifetime, 2 of them still have burnt corn that was bought at a discount for cattle feed in them. This is the type of stuff the generations before us did to feed their cattle. This was probably one heck of a fire sale, no pun intended, to buy this burnt corn, mix it in with your feed rations, and the cows probably would not mind that much. At least that one's only on the floor. This one is still sealed shut, so I can only imagine what's in there. The part you see sticking out on the bottom is the original unloaders. Those slide into that bottom opening to pull whatever product you have in the harvester out. They're a little worse for wear, which is why we're not using them. The auger is a simpler method for dry corn. I would pay a significant amount of money to be a fly on the wall and spectate what this farm was like decades ago when we still had a large cattle herd. The things that probably went on around here, both because we were a cattle farm and also just because it was a completely different time period, would have been a spectacle to see. Although I don't personally envy the hard work of the livestock industry in that era in general, I do wish I could attest to some of the things that went on here on the farm. Unfortunately, the livestock were long gone before I ever came about. When my great-grandpa passed away in the late 80s or maybe early 90s, they sold all that off and focused just on row crops. For the sake of free time and vacations, I am thankful for that. However, it would be cool to participate in something like that. Anyways, we'll be hopping in the harvest store tomorrow. I'm not gonna bore you or make you sit through the misery of watching us unload another one of those. So I'll check back in some point in the future. Things are starting to slowly pick up, as you can tell. I'll catch you guys all in the next episode, but until then, make sure you like the video if you enjoyed it, subscribe if you want to see more, and comment down below if you have any questions. You know I love to talk about farming. Have a great day, everyone. Peace!